What's up, everyone? It's Jay Ray, the co-host of Q Points, and one really important way that you can support our show is by subscribing to it wherever you listen to podcasts. Q Points is pretty much everywhere. One of those places where you can subscribe, and we highly encourage it, is on Apple Podcasts. If you visit qpnt.net/Apple Podcasts, you could subscribe to the show and listen to all of the episodes. And please leave us 5 stars because you know you love Q Points, and leave us a review. We really want to hear from you, and it helps to spread the word about the show. It's that simple. Thanks so much for tuning into Q Points, and thank you so much for supporting us. Have a great
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Q Points. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And I am Johnny Ray Cornegay III, mostly known by J Ray on this show.
That's right, and welcome back to another episode of Q Points, your weekly safe space for meaningful chatter regarding Black music and the Black artists that we absolutely love around here. J Ray, how are you doing this week, man?
Brilliant. We got good stuff happening. By the time y'all see this show over on CMP, we got an interview with Kandi Burruss and Victor Jackson that's out, and it's super dope, and it's LGBTQ Spirit Day, and they're helping us honor it, so it's really dope. It's been a good week.
That's what's up. Shout out to Kandi and to Victor. Victor is doing the things. I see him all
Victor
over.
Victor is killing it right now.
All over the place, and to know that he and Kandi work hand in hand a lot and have been friends for so long is really a testament to their friendship and his professionalism. So
yeah,
shout out to you good folks. Well, let's get into how was your weekend?
So my weekend was good. It was super busy. I had a bunch of stuff to do, but now I know that you had a gig. So tell us about this weekend's extravaganza, Sir Daniel.
So it was the block party. There's an apartment community here in Atlanta called the Skylark. Shout out to the people at the Skylark that have a block party for their community to meet with local vendors, especially women who are vendors, business owners, to come out and support them and to get to know your neighbors, and just a fun activity on a Saturday afternoon.
Yes.
And so they invited members of the Wax Fundamentals family, which include Peppermint Gaddy and myself. So we got to go out there and we got to spin vinyl. But I'll tell you this, we had a special guest DJ.
Who was the guest DJ?
The guest DJ was Mother Nature. Because when I tell y'all, this past Saturday may have been the windiest Saturday that Atlanta has had since fall has begun in the past year. I mean, it was crazy. It was so bananas. It got so bad, and I have a clip here. It got so bad that this is just one of the times. The wind was blowing. It was so fierce that even it blew the record off the turntable and off the needle, like in mid playing of the song. Like, there was no match for this wind, and we had to chase down our slip covers several times because they were just flung off the turntables while we weren't using them. It was adventurous. It was a lot of cardio. I didn't know I was going to have that much cardio that day, running after everything in the street, but I had a great time. The set was bar none. The set was dope, even though Mother Nature blew my records off a couple times. There is some audio that I recorded, audio and video, and I'm chopping it up into pieces because it's kind of long. But yeah, it was a great experience. I love spinning vinyl. I love the freedom of creating sets that can go from that can weave seamlessly in and out of genres,
Mm-hmm.
and people are just enjoying themselves. Um, and yeah, they just enjoy themselves. So shout out to Peppermint Gaddy, my
Yes.
Wax Fundamentals family. My community is so dope. My community of friends came out
Nice.
to support. They braved that that windy weather and stood there and bopped them onto the music. Shout out to JB's Records; he was out there selling
Nice.
records. So it was like my folks, all my
Yes.
peoples were there, and so it was a great time. And shout out to my friend. I think she's listening all the way in Seattle. Angel Teed,
Hey, Angel.
Angel, and I. Let me give y'all a little history. Angel and I met working at Sears Credit Collections. And
Whoa, that's giving salt and pepper, Herbie Love Bug, Kid and Play tease.
listen, it really is. We met and we were still. She came to go to school here at Spelman, and I was at, I believe, at DeKalb College or somewhere. And we all met along with some other friends. We all met working at Sears Credit in the call center in their collections department. And she and I became fast friends. We just became like the how would you describe us? We were Tweedledee and Tweedledum.
I love
I mean, just two chuckleheads. Every time you turn around, we were laughing at something. We were laughing and giggling at something, and it was just so. I had not seen her, I know, in at least 20 years because
wow.
she moved back home.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to you, Angel, to your husband, your family. It was great seeing you this past weekend. I had an amazing time, and absolutely, I'm coming back to Seattle, and we got to hang out.
I love
So
that.
that was my weekend, and then the real bow on my weekend was Sunday night for the Big Daddy Kane and KRS-One Verzuz.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. This one, I think people have been saying this and it sounds pejorative, but it's true. That was for real hip hop.
It was for real. It was for real hip hop. I have so many thoughts about this verses. But shout out to, and I'm so glad they continue to give love to Swiss Beats for creating a platform that could do this. And I also want to just give love to Kid Capri and to DJ Scratch for really, it was all hip hop won Sunday. And I know we've said that a lot about verses, but so many of the elements, you had at least three, no, you had like four of the elements really present. Graffiti was, I mean, I guess you could consider the graphics possibly graffiti, maybe. But you definitely had some beatboxing that was showing up. You definitely had DJing, you definitely had b-boying, and you definitely had MCing. So, wow.
The elements were represented.
The elements were
Absolutely.
represented.
Absolutely. Yes, to your point, totally represented. We're talking about, okay, so in full disclosure, because I know y'all like to find tweets and stuff. When it was originally announced, and we could bring it up to my tweet. When it was originally announced that it was KRS-One versus Big Daddy Kane, I had some reservations about the matchup sonically. Like, because when I think about KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions, I think about strictly a lot of boom bap,
absolutely,
a lot of conscious records that they were conscious, but they were dope. So they were ringing off in the clubs and ringing off on the radio.
Right.
And a lot of them became street anthems. So yes, they're definitely hip hop anthems.
Yes.
The deviation for me came with Big Daddy Kane, who also has his share of boom bap, has his share of street records where he's talking greasy, and being the pimp. But then there was this, they go along the same road, but then they kind of split off.
They do,
because Big Daddy Kane has a lot of records for the ladies.
A lot of records for the ladies, and he leans into that.
And he leans into that because, not for nothing, Big Daddy Kane is a sex symbol.
Absolutely.
There's like a handful of hip hop sex symbols, and Big Daddy Kane is definitely on the top list of those sex symbols in hip hop.
Yep.
So that's where I was like, is this gonna work? You know, when KRS-One it might start singing the P is still free, but because the girls are not ready. And then over here we got Big Daddy Kane doing I Get the Job Done.
Right.
So I was like, is it gonna work? But they made it work.
They did.
They made it work. And I think a lot of that was due to an element of hip hop that is missing nowadays is that off the dome spitting.
Absolutely.
And KRS-One, bar none, kids, listen up. KRS-One is notorious for going off the head and really taking it to people in the crowd and emceeing and making it a part of an interactive experience.
Yes.
That was part of hip hop back in the day, was making it interactive, shocking people with rhyming about what they had on from the stage. Because they were like, oh shoot, this is not a song. This is something made up right there on the spot.
Right.
So I think that element of surprise definitely added to the show.
Yeah. For me, like I said, I enjoyed, I wasn't sure either. Like I was definitely like, I don't know. Here's what I forgot. I forgot the way these men's music made me feel at a particular time in my life. Because hip hop has evolved and changed so much over the years that sometimes you forget the feeling that people gave you. And so when KRS-One opened his mouth from that stage, I was just like, oh yeah, I remember. So for years, KRS-One was like my favorite MC. Here's what was so dope about this Verzuz, Sir Daniel. You had at least 3 of my favorite MCs that showed up on stage in this Verzuz. So you had KRS-One, you had Buckshot Shorty, and you had Master Ace. My 11-year-old self passed out when Master Ace and Craig G came on and did the symphony. I was standing in this room. I was standing up.
Yeah.
Like I was like this.
Yeah. There was a moment where I was just like, wait a minute. Because for a minute I kind of forgot about that. I was like, and mid-show I was like, wait a minute. Is Kane going to bring out Master Ace and Craig G? Are they going to do the symphony? Are we going to see Kool G rap?
I was hoping to see Kool G rap. He wasn't there.
He was not there. That was a small disappointment, was that we did not see Kool G rap. Yeah. But yeah, I had those same moments, those epiphanies when I was like, oh shoot, is he going to bring out when KRS-One started doing Black Cop? I'm not going to tell you the amount of bogling I was doing in here when Black Cop came on. And then he flipped it and brought out Mad Lion, which...
take it... bruh! I was just like, oh no, this is everything I love happening right now.
Listen, I had on a Carl Kanai vest... and some scruffy Timbs and some extra long shorts on. You couldn't tell me I wasn't black copping in and shoot to killing all over the place with my 2 gunshot fingers. Like, you're absolutely right. And this is why we do this show. We come from the perspective of talking about the emotional connections that we have to these artists and to the music. And indeed, I was transported back in the day, whenever they dropped a record. It was amazing. I'll tell you one thing that really stood out to me during the Verzuz was when they would pan into the audience and some of your faves are standing in the audience look at being fans.
Yeah.
Fans number 1. They know they're like, I'm not Jadakiss tonight. I'm not Fat Joe tonight. I'm not Busta Rhymes. I'm a fan. I'm standing here flat footed, looking up at the stage, reliving those moments of Union Square and Latin Quarters, watching these men rip the stage. And that was so dope to me. You could see Swizz Beatz was like a kid in a candy store. He was just like, he was geeked out watching his favorites.
He was like, and so if I were to pick my like favorite moments, right? So you have these men. So there was a moment towards the end of the verses where Scratch, who's amazing, by the way, just shout out to DJ Scratch. Yeah. He was doing his DJ bit, but this particular bit was the sucker DJ bit, and Big Daddy Kane stopped him and said, "Don't do that," because he was doing a sucker DJ bit and he scratched in Kid Capri.
Yeah.
And Kane, that moment of black men kind of taking care of one another, like I felt like it was something like, that's not what I want on this stage tonight. Don't do that.
Yeah.
So it was that moment that I loved, is I felt like they were doing that a lot, where they would call, KRS-One and Big Daddy Kane, like they would come together on the stage and they would take a moment and they would do a thing and they would love on the people in the audience. So that was one thing. The second, there was the other thing that I really, really loved about this. Of course, the symphony moment was amazing. That was like, yes, give me more of that, please. But just the pureness of it, like these men are over 50.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And
never missed a beat.
No, and we're in their moment.
In amazing shape.
Yes.
With the best breath control than any of your current favorites right now. Let's just say it. Big Daddy Kane got up there and was eating records over 120 beats per minute and never missed a beat, never missed a rhyme. He never ran out of breath. He even got off the stage and stood in the audience, all of that. KRS-One, come on. KRS-One is the same exact way. You can never skip a beat. He did. I mean, there was some records where I think KRS was like, he was really there for like the show.
Yes.
Because he would kind of rap the lyrics to records, but he would like stop the beat and then he would go into something off the head.
Yes.
Because he was really about, I want y'all to know what this is really about. Yeah. And to your point, I absolutely love the moments of them loving on each other. There was that one weird moment where you didn't know where Buck shot Shorty from Black Moon, because
I didn't know
where he was going. Because when he ran after Big Daddy Kane, it was like, what you doing?
Right.
What's going on here?
Yeah.
And Kane being the OG that he was like, stood there flat footed.
It felt like I was like, oh, this is like a battle stance. Like, let me just see what this is going to be. It's hip hop.
Right. But it definitely was not scripted, because everybody was kind of like,
I don't know where this is going.
Right. And the same thing with Das Effects. Like, I think somebody to KRS-One's point, Das Effects was like super happy to be there.
They were.
Like,
can we shout them out? Can we shout out that we got to see Nice and Smooth? We got to see Das Effects. Yes. We got to see Hakeem from Channel Live, who I haven't seen in like forever.
We got to see half of Scoop and Scrap.
See,
I think y'all missed. I don't think people people in our age group understood the whole Scoop and Scrap thing. What Kane was trying. It would have been better if Scoob was there to complete the threesome, so they could have done the pyramid thing.
Yes, and Kane could have did the junk and the fallback.
All of that stuff. All of that stuff is just absolutely part of what made these acts amazing. We saw Mad Lion. Rest in peace to Miss Melody.
Yeah.
Who was the matriarch of the Boogie Down Productions team. Yeah. Rest in peace, Scott LaRock.
Rest in peace. And rest in peace, Biz Markie, man.
Biz Markie, each team, each crew has lost members over the years. So that, and again, and MC Shan was not present.
Oh, you know what? You're right.
However, however, this is another point that I wanted to make. This is why this versus was important. It was important to have it because of the history of Boogie Down Productions and the Juice Crew.
Yes.
Big Daddy Kane, not for nothing, is the conduit of peace between Boogie Down Productions and the Juice Crew.
Yes.
The Juice Crew is infamous, and Boogie Down Productions had an infamous battle back in the day between KRS-One and MC Shan. Then it kind of spilled on over on some members of the rest of the crew, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah. So before we get to that, so there's another moment that I didn't mention that's really important. There was HIV awareness in this versus too. So KRS-One did Jimmy, which is one of the earliest HIV awareness records in hip hop. It was on By All Means Necessary. And he dropped Jimmy and the crowd was rhyming it. So rappers have been talking about HIV since the very beginning. This brother on that versus stage dropped his 1988 HIV awareness record and the crowd was rapping it.
Cause remember, you're never too old.
Yeah.
Jimmy is wearing a hat. Yes.
So listen.
And it snaps.
Yeah, like there is, it's funny because I listen to Jimmy now and I'm like, okay, like the language is a little crazy, but I'm going to hold that it was written in 1988. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That song in 2021 would sound different, but the fact that it exists and the fact that he did it from that stage in front of black people, a crowd of black folks today, is almost like the antithesis of what DaBaby did this past summer that I need to hold, because I wrote about this in that piece. And I'll drop the link too in the chat, so when we do this, so when folks watch this, they'll do it. But that was another special moment that I wanted to mention from the verses. Shout out. It was just a great time. I enjoyed this verses.
It was. They definitely could have. He could have done. Did he? Wait, I think. Did I miss him doing Super Ho? Because Super Ho, for all intents and purposes, was the precursor to Jimmy.
Yeah, he didn't.
And it was kind of, it talked about condom awareness and safer sex practices. But yeah, yes, you're absolutely right. Boogie Down Productions has always been conscious regarding everything. Kind of going back to the moment that we talked about how important this was for Boogie Down Productions and and Big Daddy Kane to have this versus and to show unity. And because Kane kind of alluded in one of his freestyle raps, he was like, "Look, you better be glad I stayed out of you and Kane and MC Shan's and Shan's shit," right? Which alluded to the fact, hey, listen, if I had become a part of that whole diss war, it would have been a real problem,
right?
Which is some hip hop, some hip hop stuff, talking greasy on the side. But it got really serious. It was very serious between Shan and KRS-One.
Yeah.
And which leads me to this moment. When I heard dun 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 dun, I'm not gonna lie, that record always gives me goosebumps. Whenever I hear that piano chord, that dun 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 dun, I immediately get a shiver up my spine.
Yeah,
because that's it's a simple beat.
Yeah,
but that's a cold ass record.
Agreed.
It is a cold record. It's also probably one of the heaviest diss records in hip hop history.
So yeah, we'll have to make sure we drop the link too for that in the chat as well. So yeah,
The Bridge Is Over was KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions, kind of like piece de resistance to end the whole Bridge Wars.
Yeah,
they called it the Bridge Wars between Boogie Down Productions and Queensbridge and MC Shan. So I say all of that to ask this audience members, you tell me. It's been 30 plus years. Could KRS-One have amended the rhyme. Roxanne Shante is only good for steady bleeping. Could he have done that? Should he have done that in 2021, where everybody's, for all intents and purposes, everybody's cool with each other,
Right.
and everybody's having fun and enjoying this? It almost was kind of like when it was coming, when he came to that bridge, and I was like, oh, is he gonna say it? Is he gonna say it? And he said it. And I was like, oh, kind of took me aback a little bit. Your thoughts?
This is hard. So I'm gonna tell you why this is hard. My heart says he should change it. You know what I'm saying? My heart says he should change it, because when something, we talked about this actually on our last show when I was talking about Do Me. You know what I'm saying? Where there comes these moments where we have to realize that something may have been cool, but we have to make amends. So Johnny J. Ray would say, I'd switch this. I'd say something different. You know what I'm saying? In 2021. So yeah, that's where I land on it. What about you? Where do you land? And I'm going to say something else too. It wouldn't be hip hop. I mean, this is what hip hop is as well, but we also at 50 can change what hip hop is too. So I want to say that as well.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm split on it as well. Part of me was like, oh, that it really sounds the optics and the sonically, it sounds so harsh.
Yeah.
In 2021, and her whole name is called out.
Yeah.
And Shante will tell you that there was a moment in her life where she fell out of love with hip hop, and we'll talk about this even more. When she fell out of love with hip hop because she was a punchline.
Yeah.
To a lot of men, especially in the industry. And so, yeah, so that made it kind of hard. But at the same time, I was like, oh, they're going to bring my girl out. This is about to happen.
This is about to happen.
They're going to bring my girl out, and the music is going to stop, and she's going to like completely go obliterate him because that's what they did back in the day.
Right.
And so the music stopped. They talked, and I was like, I was kind of like, it's not going to happen. But then Kane turned around and said, hold up.
Right.
Let me bring my queen out here.
Yeah.
You would have thought I was. You ever see the footage of the little girl screaming in the 50s and 60s when the Beatles came on the stage?
Yes.
You would have thought I was one of those little girls. The way I hopped out of my seat and screamed in this house, I was like, "Oh shoot!" Yeah, and sure enough, Roxanne Shante came down the stage, and joined Big Daddy Kane on stage to spit a bar. And absolutely, to his credit, he gave her props and said, listen, nowadays it's the men are put on and become famous and then bring out a woman and put her on and make her famous. Not the case for the Juice Crew.
Right.
This little girl at 14 years old came and opened the door and created the platform of the Juice Crew and brought in Biz Markie, brought in Big Daddy Kane, MC Shan, Marley Marl, Master Ace, Craig G, and created the Juice Crew. And all of them, he said it himself, all of them consequently got their own deals after becoming affiliated and brought together because of Roxanne Shante, which I thought probably was one of the best moments of the night.
Absolutely. Having her, I felt so happy for her, and I felt happy for hip hop in that moment, because it truly was. So it vindicated. So now going back to the question that you originally asked, that made it felt good. It just really felt good. And shout out to Big Daddy Kane for taking that moment, because he could have easily let her leave the stage after she landed, and Shantae's voice cuts through all of the noise, which is fascinating to me. It's that right pitch of you shut up when she's rapping.
It's definitely the voice of a girl that carry in the projects. We all know that girl in the projects, in the apartment complexes. Her voice carries. You know that girl. Her voice carries. It's not the heaviest. It's kind of pitchy. It's kind of high pitched, but at the same time, it's got that edge to it, and it's serious. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, man.
That's been part of her superpowers, is that voice. Yeah. And that was definitely one of the best moments of the Verzuz. So hats off to Swizz and Tim for this one, because that really, it made us old heads feel real good. Yeah. I had a really good time watching it, and just, living out those moments of wanting to see people like that. He brought out DJ Red Alert.
Red Alert was on stage
performing the bridge with him. That was dope. I wish Marley Marl could have been there.
Yeah, Marley. I was looking for Marley, and Marley wasn't there as well.
Rest in peace, Mr. Magic. Mr. Magic was very, very instrumental in that whole Juice Crew, creation as well. So, kids, if you don't know any of these names that we're saying, look them up. They're very important people.
Listen, there's Oh, I had a point, and it was around. I can't remember the point though. We move on. I'm gonna leave this in.
So this has been. So imagine going from Sunday to Monday night. This has been like a week for hip hop.
Yes,
like literally, because you and I we talked about this off air, but we were both geeked because ABC had been promoting this great documentary called The Real Queens of Hip Hop. And the trailers had me super geeked because, one, they had our girl on there, Roxanne Shante, and I was like, you can't have this without having her there.
Right.
But to take it to another level, we saw Sha-Rock.
Sha-Rock, it's sitting down for an interview on national TV.
So shout out to, what are the producers' names again? Fatima.
I'm pulling their names right now.
Fatima Curry. Shout out to Fatima Curry and Malia Patria. Over at ABC for making that happen.
Yeah.
For putting this documentary regarding hip hop, regarding the nucleus, the DNA of hip hop is not complete without the women.
Yeah.
And as a female rap fanatic, those who know me, this show is super important to have.
Yes.
Not only just for fans, but for them. It was super important. Sha-Rock, can you imagine? Sha-Rock was 17 years old when she and the Funky 4+1 were on Saturday Night Live.
And that nuts. That's nuts.
But to know, found out that she was pregnant.
Right. And in pain.
And terrified. Terrified because she was pregnant, and the crew was like, what are you doing?
Right.
We're about to blow up and you're pregnant. That's the fear I think a lot of people have when it comes to women in music, is the fact that they can get pregnant. And a lot of people feel like pregnancy, especially back then, was a handicap.
Oh, God. Yeah, we have done that. Once again, illustrated the challenges of women. And we've talked about it a lot on this show. And this documentary brought it up again. Again. Happy that this happened. This needed to happen. This documentary needed to happen.
It did. I think one of the another dope moment. We were just talking about Roxanne Shante,
Yeah.
and it feels like she got vindicated on two nights.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
She had that moment with Kane on Verzuz, and then the following night on this Real Queens of Hip Hop,
Mm-hmm.
she was able to tell the story like Mama was literally sabotaged at the New Music Seminar on purpose. And we know who it was because they
Yeah.
said it's a matter of public record.
Yeah.
But she did not repeat their names
Nope.
because they're all respectful. They're all
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
friends at this point. But literally was told, "Yeah, I'm sorry. We know that you rocked it. We know that you rocked everybody that came up here. You battled everybody and you won. But we can't have you represent hip hop right now. You can't be hold the title of world supremacy MC because you're a little girl."
Because,
That's
dude,
wild.
we just be wildin'. Patriarchy is the worst.
Patriarchy is wild, man. It's wild, especially when you buy into it.
When you buy into it like that, and know when the words come out of like, yeah, we know, but we can't have you be the one right now. It's too early.
Ain't that crazy?
We need a dude to be. We need a dude. Imagine. Okay, let's play devil. Let's play advocate. Let's flip this. Right.
Mm-hmm.
What might hip hop have looked like if Roxanne Shante was the hottest MC out in 1980? Was that 85?
85.
What would hip hop look like today if Roxanne Shante was allowed to be the hottest thing out? That would have changed a lot of the trajectory.
Who knows what contracts would have looked like?
Yep.
Who knows what riders would have looked like? What world tours would have looked like?
Who else would have been able to walk through the door? We just getting a Lil Nas X in 2021. If we were able to have a Roxanne Shante be the hottest thing out in 1985, who knows who else could have walked through the door sooner? We just be like, man. But to your point, Sir Daniel, I feel like having her be able to tell her story, having Sha-Rock and her be able to tell that story, from their perspective, you can't beat that.
You can't beat that. It was very important to have women from that era, especially a Sha-Rock, because with Sha-Rock there was Pebbly Pool, the Mercedes Ladies, Lisa Lee, MC Debbie D of the Us Girls. A lot of them really didn't. Now, shout out to the Us Girls. They appeared in Beat Street, which was major for a female rap group to appear in a movie.
Yeah.
But a lot of them didn't have that voice. Sparky D and the Playgirls. Yep. There's a list that goes on. And I think that might have been part of, I don't know, maybe an hour didn't seem like it was enough for this documentary.
That thing was moving at the speed of light. That thing was moving so fast. And I know y'all only had an hour. And you know what? And I'm going to love on the production team for a second. Because when I think about it, as we're having this conversation, they had literally an hour to get as much history about women in hip hop as you can get, when the reality is you can do an entire docu-series that's many parts. You can do a 10-part docu-series about women in hip hop covering the golden era and all of that with easily.
Absolutely. They could have done a whole one episode on Sylvia Robinson alone. Because her history is wild. Like becoming a guitar player and singing in a group herself, to becoming a notorious gangster that started a record label. I mean, her history alone is worth at least an hour on its own.
At least.
But again, shout out to Malia and Fatima for what you guys did, because that was a lot of work. Yes. So looking on social media during the show and afterwards, it was a lot of sentiment that was repeated regarding the glaring, gaping hole that Foxy Brown left. It was like, and we just talked about Foxy Brown last week, and it was like, well, hold on, did I miss it? Did somebody?
What are you looking? You looking behind and say, like, I know they're gonna talk about Foxy now, right?
Because, and even the segment on Little Kim was sparse.
It was way sparse.
But
the segment on Salt and Pepper was sparse too.
Yeah. So there were some omissions. Foxy Brown being a big one, especially because hip hop culture knows that Little Kim and Foxy Brown's careers are forever intertwined.
Absolutely. You can't talk about one without the other.
Absolutely not. Definitely their careers went different places, but the nexus, the origins are definitely intertwined, and you cannot talk about one and not talk about the other. It just makes me wonder, about why, the politics around that. It's kind of weird. It kind of made me wonder, okay, the special was nice, but I'm wondering, was this just an appetizer created by ABC to get us to watch their new show Queens. Featuring Eve, Brandy, and Notori on ABC, because it led right on into that. Then the very next night, the show premiered. So, I'm wondering if this was definitely a vehicle for the show to be advertised. But Malia and Fatima needed a whole week.
They needed a whole week.
ABC should have given them a whole week to really flesh it out. Yeah. Because I really think they did a great job with what they had. It could have been even doper if they would have had more time to include JJ Fad in there.
Yeah.
And what JJ Fad did for Ruthless Records.
Yeah.
And Eazy-E, because we probably would have never heard of them if they hadn't had made all that money for Ruthless Records. So there was just so much that they could have talked about in this documentary.
Yeah. So one of the theories, because I was swirling around the Foxy Brown not being present. So here's where I landed on that. And folks, if y'all know, chime in the chat. But I was like, oh, maybe they just couldn't get her image cleared. That was the one thing I was like, this is probably comes down to like a business thing where they just couldn't get her image cleared. And that's why she didn't appear. You know what I'm saying? Or that's why they couldn't really talk about her, because you have to get all of that. Like all of these people pretty much have to sign off saying that you can talk about me. And I would imagine I can't imagine that you would have something like this. Foxy Brown, to your point, and Lil' Kim's careers are so pivotal to the trajectory of what hip hop did, not just women, because as we know, Foxy helped men. One of them is almost a billionaire, helped men launch their careers. Two of them are almost right. Yeah. Foxy helped them launch into the stratosphere, right? You kind of can't talk about that era without talking about her. So the thing I came up with, I was like, oh, this is probably just they couldn't clear her image, which is sad if that's true.
I like that theory.
Yeah,
I like that theory.
I'm really thinking that's like it, because I can't imagine they didn't reach out to her crew. It just wouldn't make sense, because they know people would be like, where's Foxy?
It was just like, okay, yeah, we're gonna talk about Kim, we're gonna talk about Fox,
and then we'll go to Trina and Eve and them. We get it, we know how this is gonna go. And then it was like
steps to it. So good job, ladies. I think the best part the absolute best part was the intergenerational chat
I love that.
hosted by Andrew Martinez, featuring the godmother, Roxanne Shante,
Yep.
Lil Mama,
Uh-huh.
and Lakia,
Lakia. Yep. Yeah.
who is a QC artist, a quality control artist.
Yeah.
I saw her recently with doing a freestyle on Funkmaster Flex's show, which is a great look for her. So I think she's on her way. But I think that conversation is so important because there are these intergenerational rifts when we have these discussions about what rap music was and what it is today, what's selling, what's not. And I think it was so important that they have that conversation, just women to women. And hearing Little Mama vocalize how she was at 13, 14 years old, how they try to sexualize her with the makeup. And she said, you know what that does to a child when you start sexualizing them? And I'm like, wow, yeah. And then on top of that, because of her infamous moment on the VMAs,
Yep.
She was literally torn apart in social media. So yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of times people, like Lil Mama, end up being the guinea pigs for other people of this is what not to do, this is what you can do. But God bless her. I'm glad she was able to be a part of that conversation. And I wonder what the outtakes look like, because I know Shante really could. I'm sure she was dropping gems, especially for like Lakia, for the new ones, because she had to.
Absolutely. And you know what I loved about? So we of course grew up in the era where Shante dissed everybody, right? So when it's so funny. So when I see Roxanne Shante, you be like, you don't know. Like, I be like, oh, is she going to like go in on like all of these women sitting here? Cause that's like in my head. I'm like, she just going to start dissing him. Cause that's what she is. But what I loved that she did, and they left that in, was she bigged up Lakia. She was like, she was talking about what I love about your generation is how y'all have kind of been moving within the industry and da-da-da. And she talked about specifically, doing something. It was something on. No, she got monetized. And she was like, I got monetized. And she was like, I didn't know what it meant, but I asked somebody and they like, oh, it's because, you hit this. And she's like, oh, that's how they be making that money. That's why. So it was cool hearing her from her generation, like big up, like, I see how y'all are moving now. It's making sense to me.
And, just like a bigger sister or mother, she's like, thank God y'all don't have to go through what I went through. Thank God y'all didn't get, have these promoters try to rob you and not pay you.
Yep.
That kind of stuff won't even fly no more, because we went through it. So thank God y'all don't have to go through that. And you're making money off of this,
right?
The phones and off of the computers and whatnot. So yeah, that was a very important moment to have. And to your point about Shante being, but she had to be that at that time.
She did.
And so it's a wonderful thing to see that evolution.
Yep.
Because a lot of people are wondering, can other rappers evolve and become friendly, if not friends, and change, If Shante can do it and be cool with MC Light, Yo-Yo, Queen Latifah, and everybody else's,
and them lines from Big Mama were brutal, bro.
They were brutal. Matter of fact, drop the link in so that they can hear, and make sure it's the Large Professor version.
Oh, absolutely. Y'all got to hear Big Mama. And listen, I will never forget the Jack LaLanne line that was related to I think it was Yo-Yo.
Yo-Yo. Yeah.
I was like, yo.
It was a pork chop. It was a pork chop line for me. I was like, whoa. and they're cool to this day. I'm like, okay, because so that lets you know
it's hip hop too. And I think the guys, and that's the other thing that we're learning. So you know what? That's actually interesting. And dissing then Well, yeah, it got real serious, like, because like there was these moments where it was a diss, but then it blurred into something real. But also there was an understanding that this is a battle, and someone has to lose. So I want to throw everything at you. And at the moment where Big Mama was coming out, you have all of these women who are doing things that Roxanne Shante in her career hadn't been able to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course you're gonna do a diss record against those. Every woman she dissed in that record at that moment was like doing stuff that she wasn't able to do in her
commercially.
Yeah,
absolutely. Oh, the Moni Love line.
Yeah.
Yikes. Ooh. And again,
Big
she
Mama.
and she and Moni Love are cool, so cool to this day. But I'm just like, every now and then, if I was Moni Love, I would look over her and be like, "Do you remember when you said that?"
She'd be like, "Yup, I do remember when I said it. I say it again."
Those are good times though. Those are good times for hip hop.
Yeah,
absolutely. Speaking of good times for hip hop, before we close out, we got to give a shout out to the Dogfather himself. Snoop Dogg turned 50 this week.
Man, Snoop.
Can you believe it?
You know what? In 2021, I can, but I couldn't have in 1993. Who knew that big, tall, lanky Snoop, who was incredibly talented, but you just kind of didn't know what that career was going to do. You knew he was dope because he was dope, but I don't think we could have pegged that he would have the brilliant career that he's had. He made that thing work for him.
Listen, he's iconic.
Literally.
Snoop Dogg is iconic. Snoop Dogg is interwoven into the fabric of American culture. Like, to your point, absolutely, when we were in high school and The Chronic and Doggy Style came out, we just could have fathomed that that his career would have become something of mythological. It's mythological in a sense.
Yep.
Another person, Snoop Dogg, is crazy when it comes to the off the head.
Oh, also. Yeah. That's one. Like, he's so good.
So versatile, and like he's gutter with it, but he's also commercially friendly.
Exactly.
Like, did you ever think that we would have seen the man that almost went to prison for murder would be hanging out with Martha Stewart?
Martha Stewart, and really, and I'm not a weed smoker, but Snoop, I'm sure, has had a lot to do with people accepting weed as kind of like a regular, something that you can just do and it can become part of regular everyday life, because Snoop was truly the one that kind of ushered that in this generation, and was unapologetic. Yeah, he was our generation's Cheech and Chong, Cheech or Chong.
Absolutely. So happy birthday to the Dogfather, and to that class of freshmen that we looked up to, who are now becoming elder statesmen, and it's just really good. Elder stateswomen, is really good to look at them and to see them looking good and standing tall and still being really good at their craft. Like Big Daddy Kane is, I know, has to be at least 53 by now.
Oh yeah.
And Chris and KRS-One is, it might be a slightly older because he's been in there for a minute, but still sharp as, razor sharp when it comes to it.
So many moments, and I will say, I think I've said this on the show, but I'm going to do a plug for the catalog of Juice Crew legend Master Ace, who of all of the Juice Crew was kind of the most prolific. His catalog is deep and good. Like, he has so many records that I literally love. I love the Master Ace Incorporated stuff, but he became known for, so in 2001, he really pivoted that career because that was when the backpacker kind of thing became a thing.
Yeah.
And so he became an underground MC, but pioneered these concept albums that were brilliant. So you have Disposable Arts, A Long Hot Summer. Play these records, y'all, and revisit the catalog of Master Ace, who also is very big on health. So when we did our health show, I think I mentioned him, but he said, like, listen, when I hit around 40, I knew I couldn't survive doing what I did without pivoting my health. Yeah. And so he pivoted his health real serious and was like, I need to cut out the drinking while I'm doing shows. Because he's also, I think, an educator in the New York school system too. So he had to change some habits, man. So Master Ace, shout out.
Definitely Master Ace. When you brought up the INC, those albums, that really, he was one of the main East Coast guys that kind of was able to marriage that West Coast sound.
Yep, he sure
and
was.
His flow, and the albums was solid. And then the team that he assembled, his wife Lachey, Paula Perry, and the MCs that he had riding with him. Like, those were some really dope projects back in the day. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And we can't not talk about his appearance on the Crooklyn.
Yep. Oh my God, the Crooklyn Dodgers and all of that.
Crooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah,
so
man.
So shout out to Master Ace. I saw you posted earlier this week. Reminded me of the brilliance of Diggable Planet's Blowout Comb.
That record,
brilliant. So. Like, people when it came out, and I know we're wrapping up soon, I promise y'all, and we talked about everything from the Verzuz to the Women of Hip Hop special. Now we're talking about Diggable Planets, but that was a shame that Ladybug.
I didn't see her picture because, dear God, she's brilliant.
talking about one of the most fascinating voices in hip hop. But anyway. That album, Blowout Comb, first of all, was not well received because of the popular success of The Pendulum, the rebirth of
the Slick album, yeah.
And so, which is such a shame because that album is so gorgeous, production wise. It's conceptual. They were talking about black liberation on those records before it was really popular.
Yep.
And so please, you guys, check out Blowout Comb. It turned what, 26?
20, yeah, 20? I believe 26, because this, wait a minute, 1994. What is that?
27.
27.
So maybe 7, yeah.
Yes. Please, y'all. Yeah, that
gorgeous album.
Yeah, I mean, they had crazy sample, like they sampled Shuggy Otis on that record, and nobody knew what inspiration information sounded like because it got rediscovered in the 2000s. But they had a sample of it on their joint, and just think, when Ninth Wonder came out, I was like, this is it. Kid, you see that I'm 68 inches above sea level, 93 million miles above these devils. Play me in the winter, play me in the summer, play me in the order. Any order, I say.
Yo, and shout out to my sister DJ Jazzy Joyce. That was a moment for her.
The real Jazzy Joy.
Yes, that was a moment for her to be reintroduced to another generation. And my sister is really underrated and does not get. And I call her my sister because she's a friend of mine. Like we are legit friends. Yes. And shout out to you, Jazzy Joyce, because she's sorely underrated and unappreciated in this game. Oh, we're gonna wrap up because it just dawned on me that you didn't. The special was not able to talk about the women behind the turntables in hip hop.
That is an interesting omission. That's an interesting omission.
So Fatima and Malia, great job. Let's see if we can get like a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. So all these people can be honored and respected for their craft and what they've given to the culture.
Yes. Oh man, this is amazing. Yeah.
Well, listen, kids, what do I always say? In this life, you can either pick up the needle or you can let the music play. The choice is yours. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And I am J Ray, y'all.
Thank you for
Peace.
joining us for this dope ass episode of Q